How you doing, everyone? Welcome to your Saturday slate with Draftstars. We've got three awesome games here between the Raiders, the Storm, the Rabbitohs and Dragons, and also the Titans and the Eels to round out the evening. We're going to start with the outside backs and some of the picks that I could potentially see you going with. And there's a few guys that are decent value, and then there's some that you'd probably want to go with up top. And we'll start with Pap and Latrell. And I think Ryan would be probably your best selection out of these two. Melbourne's coming up against Canberra, which I think they can do really well in this game. Canberra's been struggling a little bit. Pap's finally dominating again, which is good. So two really good games in a row, and I think that he's probably going to be a staple in your side. If you're going in this game just specifically by itself, then a combination of him with someone like Xavier Coates, which we'll talk about in a sec, I think is a really, really good option there. So Xavier's come in with a couple of decent games as well, a 31.6 and a 43.1, and you get him at 9,900. So if he can have a decent little matchup up against Nick Kotrick, in the air, however they're going to score the tries if they strip them for numbers, I think Xavier is going to be one that would benefit. Somewhere around the 30-odd would be good for him. If we're going back to that top again, we have a couple of potential options here in Campbell Graham, who's been doing really, really well at that 13,850. If you're looking at him, has three really good games out of the four. So, good chance that he can do that again. St. George got pumped last week, so that could potentially happen again. Whether you want to go with Graham or not is completely up to you. Someone a bit cheaper, coming up against the Titans, who do leak a lot of points, is Clint Gutherson at that 13,220. He's come off two really good games in a row, and I think he can do that again. So I'd probably center my side around him at that cheaper price. And if you want to go to Pap, then you can do that as well. The other option that I think is a decent one is Will Peterseni. So you've got him or Wanga Blake in there. So Will has had two good games, a 42 and a 59. He finally got some good early ball last week, and if he can do that again, he should get a nice score. And Wanga Blake, probably one of his best games of his career, and I think he's definitely better on the wing than he is in the centre. So again, if he can do that, then awesome. It just depends how many points they put on the Titans. So I think this is a pretty good matchup to go for, the para outside backs against the Titans, and potentially some of the outside backs in the Storm game. So that's that in terms of the guys that I'd be selecting in the outside backs, apart from potentially Johnson, if you think he's going to get a few tries there. So at 11,700, you're not really breaking the bank there for Alex Johnston. All right, we move to the halves and the hooker position, and a few guys to select here. I think if you're going to go for something around the, in the Eels combination, then you have Mitch Moses 21,100. He had a special game last week at 91.5, so that was really, really good. And then also Dylan Brown at 17,900. He's really increased his price over the last few weeks. He was in the mid 1500s last week. 15,000s last week. So 88 and 84. He could come out and do that again this week. There's no doubt in that. But he's getting that little bit more expensive, and up to you whether you want to spend the money on him or go to someone like Harry Grant at 18,930. I think he's a really, really good option this week. I can see him playing big minutes. I can see him getting over that 52. So if you think that that's worth it, just under 19,000, then Harry Grant's probably the guy I'd select this week. I'm not too sure whether I'd want to go with Hughes or Cammy Munster this week. At that more expensive price, I think you can get a little bit more value out of Harry Grant. So Munster had his tough game last week. Every chance he can come out and dominate again. But I think that that Harry Grant I'd go for above these guys. And Damien Cook had a really, really good couple of games there in a row. So if you think that he can do that again, make big tackles and get a few attacking stats out of dummy half, then he could be an option at that slightly more expensive price. The other option is potentially going with two of these guys, because this is a very stacked position, and potentially spending a little bit less in the forwards position, which I personally believe doesn't have as much value, or guys that will clearly score big points in the top brackets in the salary cap, except for Cam Murray and Isaiah Papali'i. So you've got two guys that have been really, really in form over the first 4 rounds of the season, and both of them would do really, really well on your side. Isaiah Papali'i had, he's got two 54s, a 66 and a 73, and Murray's had two of his best games of his career, the last two, has a 48 to start with. So both going to be really consistent. Whether you want to go with them or you want to go with a couple of the cheaper guys, that is completely up to you. Just a quick couple of shout outs to Jai Arrow and Tino. I think they could do pretty well, but still fairly expensive for someone that you're not really going to get over a 55 from. That would be them, their ceiling, and then probably a 40 as their floor. And then a little bit lower down there, you've got someone like Corey Harawira-Naera, who I think at 14,900 could be a decent pick if that's the kind of cash that you've got. He's got a 52 and a 61 in his scores there. So I think that could be decent. Whether you go a little bit lighter in the early 14,000s, if you've got some space there, then a Kenny Bromwich or a Beau Fermor could do okay, but I wouldn't be specifically pointing you towards them. And then a little bit lighter, you've got guys like Corey Horsburgh, who's just been really, really consistent around that 35 to 40 mark at 10,880. He could do a good job. And then a couple lighter down the track, we have Alex McDonald and also Davi Moale. So Moale should be getting a couple extra minutes this weekend. He got the 12 minutes in the first game he played, so he could potentially, if he gets 25 to 30 minutes, could eke out about a 30-point effort there because he has a nice PPM. And then Alex McDonald. So just if he gets a few extra minutes, he's going to be consistent around that mid-25s to 30, whereas Davies probably has a little bit more upside than Alex does. So if you want to go for either of them to be able to fit in a couple of those extra halves or hookers, then that could be a decent option for your side. But anyway, guys, hope you enjoyed that. Hope you got a lot out of it. And good luck with your teams tonight. And have a great Saturday. See you guys.